All right, Storm Chasers. Today I have someone that you guys are well acquainted with. Okay, I think I've been knowing him for about maybe a year and a half now.
Yep, ever
I,
since what
every
the Christmas weekend of 2021.
one, yeah. So almost 2 years. I kind of just injected him into some issues.
Somebody had to.
And he made sense of it, and we've been cool ever since. And so I have
You were
to.
hands down one of the best things that came out of that drama. I had no idea that there was somebody I was going to really like and respect that was going to come out of that camp. So it's just kind of interesting how not only were you the last one standing with all of that, but you have been like I actually really appreciate you, and you one of the people on the internet that actually use the term friend about, and I don't really use that term to describe these whores out here on these digital highways. So yeah, it's been a pleasure and a blessing, and I'm very proud of you and your growth on your platform. And you took that shit like a man. I mean, and it was at the time none of us knew really what the if it was going to be for the best or for the worst, but clearly it was one of the best decisions that you made, which was to cut ties and to do your own thing, and you've been able to stand on your own, and no bitch can say anything less about that.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. And I always say I appreciate Conscious for just being non-biased. I think I'm using that word correctly.
Yep.
Like,
Bias.
if there's anybody that can like read you and you be like, well, damn, I do deserve that though. Let me work on that. Like I don't want to kill myself after Conscious read me, but I do be like, I'm gonna go work on that.
I want to get it together. Yeah, I want to get it together after that. So I'm glad to hear that, because that's exactly, I want my reads to be righteous and divine, and to not have a destructive impact, but to have a one that inspires awakening. Because I really am the very homosexual version of Beyond a Man's Aunt. So my purpose in life is to help and to heal, and to help y'all to do y'all motherfucking work.
I like that. I like that. So let's get into it, because what'd you say?
Can we curse?
Yeah.
Oh. How your videos work out? Like, you never get into the yellow? Like, how you be getting these videos to get through?
Oh, the trick for me is pre-recorded. When I pre-record it, I pretty much cuss whatever, and that shit go green. When I do live, be yellow.
Perfect. Wow, interesting. Okay. Interesting. So that's the key to life. Pre-recorded, green.
Pre-recorded. So I brought Conscious here today so we can have an open and honest conversation about all things LGBTQIA2 plus. I wanted a person's perspective who is very well versed in the community. I'm not calling him versed. Y'all can ask him what he is.
I am. I sling dick and I throw ass.
Okay. Perfect. So, at the end of the day, I'm allegedly straight, and and I understand, but I understand some things about the community because I have friends in the community. I got some that y'all would never know, and then I got some that are, one of the girls. Like it is what it is. So we're gonna have a conversation. It's gonna trigger you. You're gonna laugh. You're gonna be entertained, and I'm just gonna get right to it. Conscious, I've always considered you to be non-binary. And I didn't really know how you identified, but then I said to myself, really, he's really just a bad bitch. Like I didn't know no other way to put it. I'm like, the wigs be laid, like his real hair is long and healthy. He got all his edges. He came today with a beat face. I didn't know how to describe, because I'm like, he got a beard, but then he got hair, but then he tatted from head to toe.
That part.
But then he also can move his body like a woman and do the gender non-conforming clothing. But then he also brags about slamming that ass down on dick. But then he look like he'll beat your ass. So it is.
You just look, that should be the new pronoun then, bad bitch. I'm gonna submit that to the LGBT headquarters. We have a new gender category called bad bitch, baby. Okay. What's so funny is I've never thought about my gender. Like I'm born male. Obviously, I am male, and I identify as man. My gender expression has been very ambiguous because, as you just stated, I mean, obviously, I incorporate things that are considered to be feminine into my aesthetic. But what's funny is that when I was growing up, like I grew up around a lot of diversity, and I come from a very multiracial, multicultural family. So we have Asians, Europeans, all of that in my family, which is why I probably look sometimes very racially ambiguous myself. And going to school with like white boys who were into punk rock and heavy metal, and the goth kids and the spike hair and the long hair, and the Asian boys and they swoops, I always saw men being able, like other ethnicities of men, just carry. And it was never really a conversation or a context around the way they wore their hair as it relates to gender. So when I was growing up around all that creativity, for me, having my hair long, coloring my hair, swoops, bangs, even makeup, because being around the heavy metal kids, there's something called like glam rock within that kind of like rock and roll space. So a lot of the biological white boys also wore eyeliner. They painted their fingernail. I mean, it wasn't about being gay. It wasn't about being girl. It was just about being creative, and it was about being stylized and unique and just an individual. So living in this age, that is largely about titles and categories. I don't mind the term non-binary. Most of the terminology used to describe me has been androgynous, which can fall within the non-binary thing because it's ultimately like non-gender conforming. So if that's what fits is non-binary, then I guess I'm non-binary. But I don't abandon my masculine energy, and I totally embrace my feminine energy. So I'm just comfortable in both. And women have been a very powerful contribution to my life and have been my protectors and nurturers. So it's hard for me to feel ashamed as a man to have feminine qualities, because anything in me that looks like my grandma, or looks like my mother, or look like my aunts, or look like some of the most extraordinary females in my life, I have no choice but to be proud of. I couldn't be ashamed of any of those feminine qualities when they came and might have been inspired by somewhat in some way. You know, the feminine that's externalized to me. So to reject my femininity would be to reject females and women, period. And I think that women are equal. I think they are supposed to be a part of this round table of creation, and I just don't have no shame about that. I was taught to have shame about that growing up Black, and you know more than I. Or as a Black male in the Black community, you can only be one way, and you can only ultimately be masculine. And anything that's not chest beating, King Kong consciousness is gay as hell, or it's weak, it's soft, it disquantifies your masculinity. But I just resisted all that. I didn't give a fuck.
I love that. And it's a lot of things that I didn't give a fuck about in my youth, but I wish that would have been one that I wish I would have reached that point earlier. Because being a Black man, you don't have to be a certain way. Like we're not a monolith. Like if we want to ask white people, Asian people, Latin people to not stereotype us, we first got to stop stereotyping ourselves. And that's just what it is. So,
but do you know what I'm most shocked at when it comes to the resistance? I'm most surprised at women, because when women are queerphobic or transphobic or homophobic, I'm just like, but in women's space, y'all get to exist in all these unique alternative ways, but will actively strip that from Black men. Will actively keep Black men in a box, while you want there to be a Aaliyah in her Tommy Hilfiger boxers and baggy jeans to exist. While you want a Debrat, who is a lesbian woman who presents masculine, to exist in the world, while you want Eve to be able to be a rough rider and to be bald headed and all and to run with the boys and be tomboys, you want and allow and permit all of this diversity in women's community, but we'll get to Black men and reduce us to thuggery and reduce us to this dense, not even just like a quality masculinity, but a dense version of masculinity at all. I expect men to be stupid and homophobic and transphobic and resistant and to internalize patriarchy. But when women do it, I'm just like, really?
Really? Let me ask you this, because the women would say, well, you as a man shouldn't even be worried about what we're doing as women anyway. Don't compare yourselves to us. What would be your response to that?
I want to know, where is the data that anyone is worried? Because I don't know what I'm worried about per se. I don't know what that means. Like, what does that mean? Like,
I think from what I've heard women say, and not you getting this second, third hand, but what I've heard women say is, women should be able to do things that are the things that women are allowed to do socially. You as a man shouldn't want to do it anyway. Like, don't compare yourself to me. Why are you even worried about the fact that we can be diverse? You be a man, you just be a man. But then we still have to ask ourselves, what does being a man really mean?
Nope. Nobody can really tell you, because man and woman are social constructs. Now, male and female are the biology. That's the science. That's the fact of all of our lives. With the exception of intersex people who change the whole game up as a result of their reality. But man and woman, it's a social construct, and that's why none of us can fucking define it. That's why when the whole drama between Jess Hilarious and TS and the TikToker happened around womanhood and women not being able to gatekeep that. As a man, I can't gatekeep manhood either, because me and you had two different manhoods. You as a cishead man growing up in...
Well, they're gonna be mad at you for saying cis.
Right. See, I was telling this to my audience the other day. I'm just like, I can have that fluid conversation with a man without all the extra backlash. But when it comes to women, everything is a lot. Everything.
Can you explain what cisgender means? I don't mean to cut you off, but
yes.
Can you explain what that means?
So cisgender just is a prefix, and it simply means the same. So in the context of gender and sex, what you are saying as a cisgendered person is, I'm either born male or female, and I identify as man and or woman. Because now we're living right in this society where we have a blended community, and if you just go out into the public and say I'm a woman, that doesn't mean you're not a trans woman. What type of woman are you? So really what you're saying is, as a cisgender person, it's your way of saying I'm not trans. Essentially, you identifying as a cisgender man is your way of saying I'm not a transgendered man. It's just a way for biological male and females to distinguish themselves from trans persons, which the LGBT community thought would be something the heterosexual biological community would be happy about.
Yeah, they mad, baby.
Right, like in this whole conversation about wanting to protect space and everybody need their space, and I'm just like, well, here it is. You have verbiage that helps you to tell another motherfucker, I'm not that, and yet you feel insulted to be called cisgender, but you don't feel insulted to be called a homo sapien. What's the difference between these scientific terminologies that are frequent in these educated academic-based sectors and these other scientific terms that you don't push up against?
Because it is an actual scientific term, correct?
Yes, these are scientific terms that you will find in conversations in institutions around the education of sexuality and gender. So no, this is not like common language that you hear amongst common everyday folk, but in these academic spaces, this terminology has been around for ages, and it's used by professors, used by scholars, used by authors, used by researchers, used by sexologists, used by people who actually do this shit. People who
I
actually
went to college. I can attest to that. No, oh wait, no, they get mad when I say that. No shade. No shade.
no shade. My
But
God.
literally,
Mhm.
if you've studied any literature, you don't have to go to college. You just read the book. Like it's an actual scientific term, and it is what it
And
is.
it doesn't, and it affirms your gender identity. It doesn't take away from it. It doesn't, it actually affirm, it doubles down on
Okay.
your gender identity. So I, I for me, if we're being frank, and I do want to be frank,
Yeah.
I think for women, for females, as it relates to the term cis, I can't help but believe that the resistance behind "don't call me cis, I don't want to be called cis" is because of who's asking you to accommodate them. It's
Okay.
because of the messenger. Because once again, these same the same female community ain't pushing up against none of the other scientific language for a human being, for male and female, etc. But because it's trans women, because it's LGBT people who you've already been indoctrinated to to not have to accommodate, that you have got to bully through your religions, through your social taboos, that you've got to keep your foot on, that you've got to speak about in a way with no accountability, that you have gotten to slander, because it's them. These lesser people are asking you to accommodate them. That's why there is a pushback. Because if a cis hetero white man who is in the science community or who's an educator use any educated terminology to talk about our existence, once again, there wouldn't be a damn insurrection or a protest. But because it's trans women asking for this and who's being accommodated because of this, that's really the context of the resistance. Because when I ask women, what is it? What is your issue with cis? No woman yet, Storm, in 2 years, and I do panels weekly, every freaking day,
You
has
do.
been able to provide me a substantive reason for what the resistance really is about. They get stomped, they get quiet, or they have some other bizarre response that really doesn't make any sense, and you can tell it's just being shot out of their assholes just for the sake of providing an answer as to what is it that bothers you so bad. And what bothers you is that inherent transphobia that you've been programmed to have since you've been a child.
Okay. Now, what I've heard women say is that, well, oh, before we get on that, scratch that. Scratch that.
Uh-oh.
Explain what transphobia and homophobia is.
Oh Lord.
Because if we don't understand the terms we're using, we can't have a conversation. So
Right. Transphobia, homophobia, queerphobia is essentially a negative predisposition toward people who identify as trans and or queer and or same gender loving. It's just it can be an inherent negative bias that's philosophical in nature. It could be represented as physical violence. It can manifest as socioeconomic violence, as political violence, because violence isn't just a physical thing. And the issue with a lot of these covert homophobes and transphobes is they think because they're not calling you the F word, and they think because they're not throwing a bottle upside your head, and they think because they're not putting a gun to your head and unaliving you, that it means they're not homophobic or transphobic. But they are, just like the Karens of the world who never lynched your ass are indeed still racist, regardless of the fact that they're not necessarily applying or weaponizing any physical violence unto
okay.
you. But they clearly have racist and anti-black beliefs, which is why their language can be violent and has to be met with critique and accountability. So if to make things very simple, just think of homophobia, queerphobia, transphobia as LGBT's version of racism.
Okay.
However, redefine racism as as Black people is how the hell Black queer folk define transphobia, queerphobia, and homophobia.
Now I understand that. Okay, oh, wow, that was a very good breakdown of that. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Now, the pushback that I've always heard when comparing homophobia to racism is that I couldn't help that I was born Black, but you chose to be gay, you chose to be trans, you chose to be queer, you chose to be whatever. So don't compare something that's your choice and something that is deemed unnatural or an abomination to the fact that I was born Black. What would you say to that person?
I would say that folk need to get off the short bus and get on the longer one, because obviously when queer people compare queerphobia, homophobia, etc., to racism, we are all adult and educated enough to know that we're not comparing in literalism, but in principle. Because discrimination is discrimination, and economic oppression as a result of your skin color or as a result of your orientation or of your sex or your gender is the same in principle. We're not saying that queer people have been enslaved and were imported here and were lynched and were buck broken and were sold and auctioned off. We're not saying that the hate physically manifested the same way. We're comparing the principle of hate and prejudice to something that can help conceptualize the issue for Black Americans who struggle with queerness and struggle with why it's important for queer people to fight for their rights or to march in the streets or to have a gay pride or to come out or to etc. If Black if the issue wasn't Black for Black folk, but was for something else, we'd be comparing it to what it could be compared to for the sake of relatability.
Okay.
But even so, when cis hetero folk do that, and they it's y'all need that's we know it's not the same, baby. How about you recognize the fact that this is just your excuse and not have to hear us? The fact that you want to nitpick and you want to challenge everything. Do you ever think about where the notion to challenge comes from? Like, this is just their way of not having to hear you by policing the hell out of the analogies, policing the hell out of the metaphors. They know exactly what the fuck queer people are saying. They know exactly what the fuck queer people mean. But because generally cis hetero folk have internalized queerphobia, they have the incentive to not hear and accommodate us, and will find any reason to not hear us. Any reason to not hear us.
Okay. That makes it okay. I see where you're coming from, because when I've talked to, or really just hear people talk, you know, a lot of what people say they don't like about the queer community, to me, it seems to typically come from religion, Christianity in particular. God, I mean, my grandmother, she still says this about my lesbian aunt. God didn't make you that way. God don't like that. God don't want you living that way. Now, for me, I get straight to the goods.
Yeah.
I ask them, are you saying that gay people are gonna go to hell? And they say, well, yes. I said, okay, well then what's the difference between that gay sex and you having premarital sex? Because it's all sexual sin. So a lot of this shit is like it's because of religion, but then we still pick and choose what parts, and then they talk about Sodom and Gomorrah and then Adam and Eve. But I want you to speak on this because you're a spiritualist. Are there examples of gay and queer folk in African spirituality in ancient Africa? Was that a thing?
Oh yes, it was a thing. I wish I would have brought those notes. So to go there, even the Bible acknowledges same-sex people, not necessarily in the term of homosexuality, but in the term of eunuch. If you study what eunuchs are historically and culturally, they were males who occupied the chambers and the quarters of kings and queens. They oftentimes were responsible for manicuring the lawn, upkeeping, the estate. They were entrusted servants. They oftentimes did the hair of the queen, of the concubines, etc. So they occupied this great political position, and these men oftentimes were either castrated men, because obviously you, as a king, you want your lineage to stay clean, and you don't need other men procreating with your women and your wives and your concubines. So castration was oftentimes required to be a eunuch, or if you weren't physically castrated, you had to be mentally castrated, which is where same gender loving men came in at, as being employed as eunuchs, men who had no incentive, no desire to be with women or to participate in hetero paradigm.
So a queen, one of the girls.
Literally one of the girls. That's why a lot of eunuchs, if you look at like the ancient Greece movies and shit, and they depict eunuchs, they always are kind of a effeminate nature, etc. So eunuchs are biblical, etc. And of course, pre-colonialism, Africa, it's interesting how Black people will allow young Pharaoh and allow Dr. Umar and allow Polite to tell them that sexuality is non-Black and that it's European and it's perverse. The question has to be, why the fuck do you think the colonizers had to come over and evangelize Africa into homophobia? Because homosexuality, pansexuality, transgenderism was rampant throughout tribes, African tribes. So when the European man stepped on the soil and saw this diversity, he said, oh, hell no. These people are out of order. These people are chaotic. These people are operating in perverseness, etc. And so they had to evangelize and Christianize Africa as a result of its diversity. So if you study anthropology prior to colonialism, you will find depictions of men on ancient wall paintings, etc., in homoerotic positions. You had African queens who identified as kings and called their harem of men their wives. You have certain spiritual and prophetic groups in pre-Africa who literally, you had to be two-spirited in order to even be initiated, because to be two-spirited in pre-colonial Africa, you were basically considered a superhero and had superpowers, because you could gatekeep both of these polarities, this masculine and feminine realms. You had natural, organic access to, which brought your humanity into a fullness. You had certain tribes in Africa that actually revered same gender loving unions and marriages as more spiritual than cis hetero marriages. You literally have certain parts of Africa that literally, it was institutionalized for the warrior class of that African community to be able to go to the parents of a young male and buy him as a temporary companion for their conquest, who could act as temporary wives, who they had sex with. And this was literally law and institution.
So this just wasn't happening in Greece. This was happening in...
This is pre-colonized Africa. This is pre-white man Africa.
Dr. Umar would cuss you out for saying that, but okay.
Get that school up, Dr. Umar.
I hear you. Okay.
So can
because the interesting thing is, I have friends who are spiritualists. People call them witches, whatever. But in different spirituality, like communities, especially over in Haiti, DR, it's very common for the men to just be fluid.
Yeah.
And the women are cool with it. Like, it's just not a big deal. And they're very spiritual people, and they're fluid. Not all, but they're initiated in different African spirituality sects, SECTS.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of them are fluid, and a lot of them are very in touch with the spiritual world.
Look, there are even African deities and gods who are literally what we consider to be intersex themselves. Like literal African gods, African deities who are both male and female. I mean, people think that this is a new issue, but the third gender category is literally global. Okay, I even listed some of them here. You have in southern Mexico, the muexes, okay, which are individuals born in male bodies who identify as neither male nor female, who are a part of Mexico's ancient culture. You have the Native American Navajo culture, who recognizes a third gender as two-spirited, which we've discussed here, who are essentially trans persons. You have freaking in the Polynesian culture, you have the Somo, okay, who are males who identify as female, and they are fully accepted in Samoan culture. You have South Asia's Hydras, who not only have an unlimited gender expression, but who also have their own damn language. You have Madagascar's Sakracha, who are boys who exhibit, listen to this, Storm, boys who exhibit traditional feminine behavior or personalities who are then raised by their parents as girls from a young age. These males raised as girls are not even labeled as gay because sexual orientation isn't a factor for the Sakalava, and raising a child in this third gender is natural and accepted in the community's very social fabric.
Wow.
Talk about across the board.
The world. In different races.
Yes. Different places, different times throughout history, cultures and societies have embraced and integrated these other types of people in a loving, in a spiritual, in a socially accepting way. And I think that's what's largely missing from the American conversation around gender, is because we are left brain country and we're rooted in science and logic and reason, and we want to throw all the science at it, which is why we say things like, bitch, you ain't got a uterus, or bitch, you ain't got a dick, or whatever it is. We throw the science at it. What's largely missing from the conversation, which derails it and muddies it, is the spiritual aspect of gender. Because yes, we know that the body is the vehicle, but we do not consider the context and the purpose and the nature of the soul that occupies that apparatus.
Oh, okay. So now, so we're understanding the science, but not the spirituality.
Spirit, yeah.
Oh, and that's God, that's even another conversation because everybody believes different shit.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of it, right? All these identities: Christian identity, Muslim identity, atheistic identity, but yet queer people are not able to have an identity. Everybody else get to be in all of their identities. They black ass identity, they corporate identity, they silver spoon ass identity, I'm a natural bitch, I'm in my Macy Gray bag identity, or I'm a hot girl identity. I mean, everybody else get to have identities, Storm. Everybody else get to live from their identities, exist in their identities, champion their identities. Oh, God forbid queer people also have intersectionality and actually have identity. We're lunatics. Okay.
Damn.
Fine. Okay.
I like the way you put that. And speaking of identity, before we took a pivot, we were talking about black men's identity, black males' identity, and you were saying I'm not your version of manhood and my version of manhood is different. So I had took a pivot, but I'll let you pick back up from that point.
Yes. The black community and its rigid boxes for black men are crazy, but as that identity, right? Like, I think me and you are a lot alike. I think we do share a lot of the same principles of growing up. Education was a big thing, growing up, etc. But honestly, I wasn't given there was no conversation around what it, like, blackness wasn't a part of it. Like, we are black, but I was raised to be nonviolent. I was actually raised to be, I want to say feminine, but I was raised to be submissive. Me and my brother were taught, we were not taught how to fight. We were not taught to stand up for ourselves. We were taught to be dependent upon authority to intervene in anything that required self-defense emotionally, or self-defense mentally, or self-defense physically. My stepdad didn't take us out in the backyard and teach us how to kick a nigga in the nuts and to knock him out. Like, we didn't get that type of training. We were taught to be very obedient. We were taught to be very much so non-problematic, stay out of the way, you know, make mom and dad proud, etc. While I went to school with other boys whose sense of masculinity had to be through showboating, through violence, in order to declare their masculinity. I went to school and were in community with boys who were taught that being loud and rambunctious and being apathetic was a part of masculinity and a part of manhood. I was taught to have a wide open heart. I was taught to be kind. I was taught to be completely separate from a lot of the males who were more harsh, like in their nature and in their reality and in the way they socialize, than I was. And as a result, because I was raised in the hood, I don't know about you, someone, but I was raised in the knuck in the butt crime, mob it up. I'm talking about gunshots, ambulances, domestic violence, hearing women get beat right through the walls. Raised in the hood from like 6 to 11 or 12, like raised straight up in the projects. And so, because I was not the male who was rambunctious, and I was not proving and performing masculinity through violence and intimidation, I was called gay by other men. Not even because I was overtly girly and hey girl. I was not necessarily feminine as a child. I was just a boy. But I was a boy who was not performing masculinity in the way that that community had defined masculinity. I stood out like a sore thumb. And I know me and you have had conversations.
Yes.
And I know even you literally have declared your orientation 50 trillion 11 times. We see you jack off into piggy banks and jack off into teddy bears and machines and shit. And we literally, like, you've spoken about your personal life, your sex life. We know that you are a big whore and you like the sex clubs and everything, and you like the vagina. And yet, because you are a black man who gets his feet done, who is articulate and educated, who is not performing masculinity and using intimidation tactics to validate your masculinity, you are called one of the girls. You are called and slandered and mislabeled as gay simply because you don't show up in any of those masculine stereotypes.
Absolutely. And I will say this, like, and I always tell people, you know, when I do my show, it is performative to a certain degree. I know my audience, so I'm giving you a certain thing. In real life, am I really doing all that? Nah, because I ain't even gonna talk to you in real life. But you know, like you, I would actually talk to you in real life, but a lot of these people I wouldn't. No shade. But yeah, no, you're right. Like, once I say, oh well, no, I'm not gay, I'm actually straight. What? Oh no, you bisexual.
Right, you got to be something other than.
Well, no, I'm actually not. And then, but then y'all go, but then I'll hear them say, "Ain't no such thing as bisexual." So am I bisexual or not? Am I straight? I don't fucking know. Mm-hmm. You know, do I fuck old women and fly men into town? Who knows? Mm-hmm. But yes, that's something I've dealt with not only on the internet, and I know that's going to be there for my whole career. I'm okay with that. I'm not sure.
How was that experience for you, even growing up in the Black community? Like, did you feel like you were accepted or respected because of the type of guy you are versus what other men in your community were?
Mm-hmm. I will say, yeah, it was definitely. I was definitely not necessarily an outcast, but just like, oh, he's different. Mm-hmm. Well, first I have to back up by saying, number one, like, I lived in many different communities. I moved around a lot as a kid. And so I went to white schools and then I went to black schools. I can't say I grew up in the hood. My parents did, but I can't get up here and lie and say I did. Mm. Hood adjacent, I guess you can say, because I spent time in the hood with my grandma. but
I like that hood adjacent.
yeah, so I guess you can say hood adjacent. That's how I'm able to like mimic certain people attack. Because even my friend Jake was like, how do you read people the way you do, or how do you tap into that hood shit because you're not hood? And it's like, I mean, my whole family is. I don't know what to say.
It's in the DNA, baby.
Yeah, like I literally don't know what to say. So I always tell people I'm country, I'm not hood. There's a difference. But nonetheless,
because you've had such an intersectional existence and you've moved around, you've had the luxury of
meeting all kinds of different people. Literally all kinds of people. But I was a grandma's baby. So yeah, my grandma lived in the projects. It was what it was.
Shout out to grandma and food stamps. Give me some.
Shout out to grandma. That grandma's dead now. She's dead.
Oh,
but
sorry to hear that.
she would be like, "Don't cry for me. I'm a dead bitch. I'm gone. Live your life." Like that's just how she.
I see what Storm gets it then. Okay.
Yeah, and people don't understand too. Like, not only did I come up around a bunch of like hood, like my family's hood, I went back and I realized most of my family, they're fire signs. I don't know if that means anything.
It means more than likely you have a very intense ass family.
Yeah, so pretty much everybody is either in Aries or Scorpio.
What?
And that's pretty much everybody.
Baby, y'all in trouble.
So
Scorpios and Aries energy.
Yeah, Aries
energy in the family. Wow.
Aries, Scorpio, then Tauruses, then Geminis. That's it.
Wow. What? Hold on. So would you consider your family to be together or to be pretty dysfunctional?
They can't be in the same room.
All right, because I cannot imagine any of those fucking energies that you just talked about actually being able to go along to get along. That is like overkill on the intensity. Gemini, Scorpios, Aries, etc. Yeah. Y'all got y'all work cut out for y'all.
No, and I literally looked at the family tree. I literally looked at it back to like the 1800s, and it's just pretty much everybody is an Aries, a Scorpio, or Taurus, or Gemini. That's what dominates it. We got a Pisces here and there. We got a Cancer here and there, but that's it.
That's it. Wow, my God. God bless y'all.
Which is why I'm a hot fucking mess. So, with all that being said, like, growing up before my parents split up, I would have definitely been described as like a boy's boy, like rambunctious, love toys, love sports. Like, I remember climbing trees, flipping over shit, like playing with pit bulls, like real just boyish shit. And then my dad left, I want to say around 7, 8. And then I didn't play sports anymore after that. I pretty much lived the life of go to school, come home, that's it. I wasn't hanging out around boys outside of school. Like, I really wasn't in masculine spaces. I really was then integrated into a lot of feminine spaces. And so, just like, I don't, did I come into the world naturally more feminine, or was it just a product of my dad?
Feminine.
Okay. I gravitate towards like women music, female artists. Even like, I can't say female shows because I'm not anymore, but definitely more female music I gravitate towards. I just be chilling. I don't feel the need to go start no shit with nobody. I just be chilling. I like to read.
Those things don't make you feminine.
That's true. That's true. I guess you could just say mannerisms or tone of speech more than anything, but I've been around women so much. It's like, was I born it? Was that nature? Or was that nurture? Because even like, then I got grown and I even like had jobs where I worked around a lot of women. And so it was just like, oh, fuck. So
sometimes it could be a combination of both. Nurture can arouse what's natural to us. So sometimes it can be a combination of both. It's really kind of hard to really know it because children don't speak. So, I mean, like, they don't have a way to, contextualize it in that way. So But a lot of times it can be both. I mean, I know for me, like I grew up in a 2-parent household. I had I had a real dad, and then I had a stepdad, and I had a bunch of uncles, and they were all fluid in my life. I had a younger brother as a sibling, and I came out gay as hell, and a combination of both. And I don't think it was. I think I learned how to illustrate it by what I saw, but I don't think what I saw created what I am.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's interesting. I'm not sure. For me, I really don't know. I will say I still crave those masculine spaces. And
so why you not in there? Like, what keeps you from going to shoot ball? What keeps you from like entering and accessing those spaces?
Well, to be honest with you, I guess I kind of am in the lifestyle because I'm in. Yeah. Anyway, I'll leave that part alone. I have to be discreet about that. For me, really, what it was is like a lot of those fundamental things you learn as a kid. So since I missed it, it's like I'm not finna be a 30-year-old man trying to learn how to play basketball now. Like that's crazy. Like
that means that ain't something you really want to do then. So that means we have even more questions for you.
That's true too. But then I was interested. I'm more into martial arts, and I do actually do that on the side. So like that drew me in versus I used to love my skateboard. I let people talk me out of fucking anyway.
And see, I was gonna say that, and then I know you don't want to say on you, but I think
no, stay on me. I gotta be happy too.
I think some of these like desires to do these so-called boyish things are a result of more external pressure and critique, more so than you, because I'm going to be of the assumption that anything a person really wants to do, they're going to actually do that. It's not going to stay just in the want category. It's going to be a verb. It's going to turn into an action. So if you ain't really putting action behind these things that you think you want to do, it might be because you have to deal with people constantly critiquing your masculinity and constantly calling you gay and constantly emphasizing that, and that may be what on an unconscious level drives you to want to like manly it up in some way, so that you just feel more assured about yourself. And peer pressure can do that to all of us. Even those of us who know ourselves, we can find ourselves like, okay, well, but what's up with me? Like, is there you know deep down it ain't, but because people keep programming,
because we live in society,
programming you that way. Yeah, like that's the consistent rhetoric is yabba dabba do. Then it can cause any logical thinking person to consider if there's any reality or substance to that. So it could be peer pressure, because you deal with it a lot, Storm. Like
I do take a lot. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I'm also very like logical in my thinking. So sometimes I'd be like, well, wait, how do I feel about something? I don't know. I have to literally sit and think. Not think, sit and feel. There we go. I learned that in therapy. Okay. But no, you're right. Like when I really wanted to wrestle, I made sure I went and did that, and I was actually good at it, and everybody was shocked. When I really wanted to get into theater, I did that shit.
Yeah.
When I really wanted to move cross country, I did that shit. I wanted to legally change my name, I did that shit. So you're right.
You wanted to exit up out of Kiwi, aka Yelling Studios.
I did that shit. You're right. So anything you really, really want to do, nobody can keep you from. That's a good point. I will.
And I want to say this too. I also, because I think your audience also doesn't know that on an unconscious level, they participate in pushing you to manly it up as well, because they are also impacted by a lot of the slander. Because I know a lot of our supporters, they watch other people we don't fuck with, people we don't support, and they hear that rhetoric as well. Because I can see it in your audience when it comes to Love Jones. I'm like, here it is, Storm. Initially, this is a friendship. This is a this is a collaboration, this is creative, and yes, because it's boy meets girl, of course it has the potential to be something more than that. But I saw kind of this eagerness, this extra eagerness for the Storm Chasers to have you date Love Jones, hook up with Love Jones, because I think even for them, like, they feel like, okay, finally we can really defend Storm's sexuality. We need to see Storm in action. We need to see Storm like be heterosexual, so we can finally have a factual exhibit A that we can present and say, now you all, we can really argue that y'all need to shut the fuck up about this fucking man. Like, he's as straight gonna be. So I think even your own audience, like, they get weighed down and they don't realize.
They get excited about it. Because
and the question is why? What's behind that excitement? Is it because you really want Storm to just be coupled up and you want him to have a companion? Or is, even in the Storm Chasers, there's like, we're low-key waiting for Storm to prove his heterosexuality. He declared.
But why do I have to my thing is, why do I have to prove it?
Because you're not the stereotypical chest.
And I've even told them, like, you don't have to defend me. I've seen them in other people's chat. No, I'm not tripping off this shit. Why are you? Because then when I was hanging with Vaughn and we was finna really be out here being some whores, and y'all all freaked the fuck out.
That part.
Oh, you doing too much. So I can't be a male whore. You just want me settled down. I'm not, you can't please motherfuckers. You just can't.
Okay. That's why I pay social media no attention, because they're all schizophrenic.
Because me and Vaughn was on some hoish type shit.
Yeah. He would have never got married still fucking with you. He would be a single bachelor right now messing around with your ass.
I'm just saying. And like, they did not like the light-skinned niggas thing. They didn't, but they also had never saw that side of me, and I have to be honest and keep it real about that. And I also had to be like, damn, they don't. It's my fault because I built a brand off of presenting a certain way, but also they don't know the real me. When I was with Vaughn, hanging out with him, that was my more authentic self. If I could get paid to just travel and go in sex shops and fuck and talk about it and somehow get paid to do it.
It's called the adult film industry, and you already got one testicle in by being on OnlyFans. So I mean, literally, you could just go ahead and
just cross over.
Yeah, just be you could go and have an entire career as a male whore.
Because if I could do that and make the same money that I make on YouTube, or like the potential of it, I think I would be doing this.
And like, you could, like, look at what King Nora has been able to carve out, an entire brand.
True.
An entire brand. Look at Mr. Marcus. Look at Lexington Steele. Look at Brian Pumper. Don't ask me how I know any of these niggas' names.
I know them too. Wesley Pipes, Nat Turner. Yeah.
Research purposes. Okay. But yeah, I mean, it's lucrative, and the OnlyFans age is a thing. I mean, look at how much Black China made off of being a part of that culture. I mean, it's all being a sex worker it's just another form of content creating. Except your content is just sex. Your content is sexuality. Your content is that, and there's money in that shit. Yeah,
there's absolute money in that shit, and you're right. Like when people want to know, well, who is Storm and who, like, really what? Maybe I would just be doing that, but to get back to what you were saying, we gonna get to the sex in a minute. Me and you could talk about sex forever. We two damn freaks. I just feel like, growing up as a kid, little boy, of course, I was boy's boy. Then as time went on, and especially, the more I was in white spaces, then I would go around, Black men, or go to the barbershop, or even in the family, you talk weird, or, make sure you still know you Black. I used to hear that a lot coming up, like, you still Black. Or then when I got around that 11, 12 age, then it was, you know, or you fucking, well, who you fucking, you know, you fucking, yeah, you ain't gay as you. And you know, even my uncle would have been accepting of me being gay, but not accepting of, I gotta use my words correctly because we're not on the phone. Like I could not walk around like you.
Okay, so you couldn't be feminine. You couldn't be outwardly feminine. You
No,
couldn't.
he would have been cool if I was gay. Honestly, my dad too, and my dad is
masculine and same gender loving, but you couldn't be
like I could have brought my nigga to the house, to the family functions, to Christmas. My grandma would have been cool with it.
But y'all both were men and act like men.
Yeah.
And that's that patriarchal gatekeeping.
Yeah. Because do you remember the movie Beauty Shop?
Yeah.
Okay. I remember we went to go see that movie when it first came out, whatever year that was, me, my uncle, and my cousin. And that scene with the gay dude that fell on a bag, he was like, if y'all ever turn out like I don't care about y'all being gay, but if y'all ever turn out like that, I'll kill you.
Yeah.
Ooh, they're gonna be mad I said that.
Look, why? The truth shall set you free, you toxic ass Uncle the Storm.
I love my uncle though. I love my uncle to death, but I don't think he meant it literally, but nonetheless, like,
yeah, I mean, but he was showing his disapproval. He was saying that was his way of saying I would absolutely not approve. You would not get my support. You would not get my support socially at all. I will withdraw from you emotionally, mentally, physically, etc.
Yeah. Wouldn't have cared if I was gay.
Apparently, Storm, the Black community is so accepting. So how could you have these homophobic masculine male figures in your life? Because if you let the Black community tell it, we the most loving, we the most accepting, we the most
as long as you fit in patriarchy, you better not go against that patriarchy. You better not go against that Christianity. Baby, I done got so much hate even for wearing a crystal and told I was going to hell. Like it, we accepting it till we not. But let me ask your opinion of this, and then you can go back to drilling me, not literally, but drilling me, because I gotta be, if I talk about people, I gotta be able to talk about myself. Me not really, let's say, growing up under my dad, because my dad is literally what you would call, I guess today, toxically masculine. Like he believes women should stay in their place, women should mind. If a woman get out of line, slap the fuck out of her because she out of line. Like he's very much that, like
his Ike Turner bag.
Very much like we should be having sex every day. I grew up hearing that he said ain't no excuse for y'all not to be having sex every day unless she's sick or you know you're curing yourself of an STD. Other than that, y'all should be fucking every day. There ain't no excuse. Like he's that kind of thinker. So if I had grew up under him, I would emulate a lot of that, I'm assuming, but also my father has never had an issue getting married, never had an issue getting women. So I guess women like this shit essentially, right?
Well, I mean, we can't speak monolithically about women because, you know, there are women who definitely don't want no abusive, toxic ass, Ike Turner ass nigga. It's a lot of women who name ain't anime and who ain't gonna eat the damn cake, and they ain't interested in finding a mother who gon' ask them to do so. But I will say, I mean, of course, the thing about reality is that perception is reality, and a lot of people are unfortunately a product of their environment, and a lot of people, like, if you were not raised around whatever love is in its healthiest, truest, actual form, if you weren't raised around that and nothing around you really represented that, then you're taking all your cues on how to navigate life from what is in front of you. So if you were raised up in a household or in a family or a community where you saw women abused and you saw men be able to abuse women, and then you saw those women stay committed to those men and pursue those men and reproduce with those men, then you can grow up to be a woman who makes a space for that type of dysfunction in your own life because that's been your reality. You adapted to that. This somewhere between abuse and love, those things could coexist together. And that's what trauma teaches you. That's what dysfunctionality teaches you. And so as a man, yeah, if you also were raised in an environment where it was okay to objectify and exploit women in this way, and nobody really checked your attitude, nobody checked your toxicity, then yeah, you can grow up to be a man who continues to seek out those spaces that allow you and permit you to be that, and go on your whole life being out of order, out of motherfucking line, and never really knowing it. Because most people stay close to what they know, which means include intentionally seeking other people like themselves to be around, seeking environments that are a reflection of their morals, of their worldview, etc. So most people, and this is why this is why most people have a hard time changing, because by the time somebody is checking you, it's hard to adhere to that, because you're like, no, bitch, you got to be the one who got it wrong, because
Yeah.
I've been like this my whole life. This is how it is. This is what it's supposed to be. This is how we move. This is what we do. This is what normal is. This is what truth is, etc. And that other alternative anomaly coming in saying, nah, bruh, like, actually, this is not what you think it is. This ain't love. This ain't healthy. This ain't this is abusive. Just because she will apologize to you after you hit her doesn't mean you are not in the wrong. I mean that you are in the right.
In the
Just
right.
because, yeah, she'll still be there in the morning after you've sexually assaulted her and rammed her head into a wall and call her outside of her name doesn't mean your behavior is healthy. Just because your mom will then have a private conversation with her and tell her, baby, that's just how men are, honey. You just got to be more meek and more submissive, and you just got to make sure you talk right to that man in order for him not to do that. Just because you have other people supporting you in your bullshit doesn't mean that your bullshit is not bullshit. It's still bullshit. But once again, most people grow up to also emulate and align themselves with the environments that they experienced in their youth, in their teenage years, in their communities growing up, which are the most formative times in our lives. So most people normalize dysfunction. Now, I can't say that if you had been raised by these other men in your life that you would have absolutely been them, because two types of people make it out of their environment. Well, there are two types of people in every environment. There are the people who do not have a strong sense of identity, who cannot override the software. Therefore,
Mm.
they adopt the software. And then there's those people who have such a strong sense of self that regardless of how many of those type of niggas there were, and no matter how much of a set behavior was seen and heard and practiced in their lives, they will absolutely reject it. They will absolutely push against it. So weak-minded people, unfortunately, become a part of the system, and strong-willed people, no matter what you have put in front of them, for how long you've put it in front of them, will never become the thing you've put in front of
In
them.
front of them.
Ever. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So we can only guess if you would have been a product or not been a product. We'll never know now, because that wasn't your circumstance. But considering that I get the sense that you have a strong sense of self. So
I wouldn't have been hitting women. I know that. I knew that was wrong from the beginning. It was some shit he was talking about I was just not gonna do. Like that. That's crazy to me. Like even how he used to tell me, like, when you get with a woman, you put her through hell, you make her prove, you make her work and worthy of your monogamy and worthy of marrying her. Like, it's like that sounds crazy. Put a woman through hell sounds crazy to me.
It is.
So
oh, it's so.
but then I thought maybe I was just weak because I didn't want to put a woman through hell. Like
that's crazy. Yeah, nah, absolutely not.
I'm not trying to say my father and uncle would have been like Boosie, but I'm just saying nobody would have been mad if I would have been 14 knocking down a stripper.
A 22-year-old, yeah.
They wouldn't have cared because, like,
No,
I remember I remember I went to school with this girl named Tiana. I don't remember her last name. Tiana, if you see this, hey, your ass probably got like 7, 8 kids by now. Shout out to Tiana. Anyway.
How Tatiana?
You said Tatiana. Tiana was 14, but Tiana looked like 25.
Mm-hmm.
Like she was built. But she was only like 13, 14.
So
but
she was a fully developed.
She was fully like she looked.
Oh, mm-hmm.
Yeah. But anyway, like I remember I went to her birthday party and my dad saw her and he said, You fucking that? Like I was 13, 14. He was like, you ain't hitting that. Like,
and how old she was at the time?
If I was 13, 14. She was 14.
14. Yeah. He was asking you, had you had sex at 13 years old?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he saw how big her booty was.
Me and your uncle, they probably have the same name.
The crazy part is she did want to have sex with me, and I'll leave that part of the story out. But
wow. To be continued.
But yeah, but
that's a part of the patriarchy, is the exploitation of women. When I was growing up, me and my brother asked the same thing. Y'all had your little first piece of pussy. You got a girlfriend. We 9, we 18 years. A girlfriend, what the hell is that? Like, pussy, what the hell is that? Like, I know my mama. That's the only pussy that I know is what I came out of. I don't know nothing about no pussy at 9 and 10. And yet, the girls never were dealt that way. The gender norms are so interesting and contrasting in terms of what boys were able to be introduced to and what they were allowed to do and who they were allowed to be versus our female counterparts and the world that was given to them. I find it just so fascinating how boys were allowed to be rambunctious and to have this strong sense of ego and self and aggression and etc. and control, while women literally from the time they came into this world were given easy bake ovens and baby dolls, and they learned how to nurture children from an early age. They learned how to provide and be domestic. All of this.
And that's not every girl. Some girls want to play football. Some girls want to play basketball. Some girls don't like to wear dresses and skirts.
Yeah, and every girl should not be, from the time they come to this world, be groomed to be with a man, because that's essentially what all that is we are grooming little girls to get ready to be a helpmate and a accessory to men when they get older. And this is why in most households, the women, the girls, the sisters wash their brother's clothes as well, wash his dishes as well. You see these assignments, you see this grooming, and we like to talk about the LGBT community and this fake ass grooming agenda, but we don't talk about the hetero grooming agenda that literally is embedded in the way we socialize children.
I can attest to that. My grandmother absolutely idolizes and worships my uncle, but definitely was harder on my mom and my aunt, even to this day. Number one, and number two, my grandma was trying to marry my mom off at 15. Yikes. She told my mom, like, you can marry Red. I'll sign them papers, like, because Red was going to the military. So my mom was 15, Red was 19.
Wow, 15.
And my grandma was cool with that. She was like, I'll sign them papers. But it was kind of about that. I mean, and my grandfather was a military man too, but it was really more so of how Red looked, and my grandmother wanted grandkids that looked like that.
Wow.
So
there was a colorism aspect
involved. Yeah, because Red was half white and half black, but he looked white.
So he was red bone, literally red. Oh wow.
Yeah. And so my grandmother definitely wanted grandkids
with the good hair, the good genes, the all that are considered good and pedestalized as it relates to whitewashing.
Well, see, the thing is, on my mom's side, they don't have coarse hair. That's not really the family aesthetic. It's just some of them are dark, some aren't. But I think my grandmother was trying to get the complete package, like the hair and the skin and the
Is your grandma alive today?
This one, yeah, that my mom's mom. Yes, she is. Yes.
Have y'all ever? Have you ever had like a conversation with her about that? Considering the times we're living in, like, has she changed her? Like, does she know
She
that?
ain't she ain't changed, but she'll more watch her mouth. So first off, you got to keep in mind, like, my grandmother only married my grandfather because he was fair skinned. And so my grandmother literally said, I don't want black and ugly kids.
Wow.
So, I mean, mind you, my grandfather was an alcoholic, an abuser, a drug addict, didn't want to work, dropped out the Navy, but he was fair skinned.
And that's how much social equity is on whiteness and light skinnedness.
Yeah.
That you
It
could
didn't have nappy hair.
Yeah, F student in life, but your complexion qualifies you for the valedictorian position all in and of itself.
All in and of itself. So then, time goes on, and then my mom gets with my dad, and my dad is light skinned, but he has nappy hair. He has big lips. It threw my grandmother for a loop. Because that's not what she wanted for my mom. So even to this day, we have to tell her, like, no, ain't no such thing as bad hair. Like, no, don't say that. I remember I had this friend.
There's nothing wrong with the nose that were given to you by your ancestors.
Right. I have to tell her that. Like, I remember I had this friend DiMaggio, and he's dark skinned, but he's dark skinned with good hair. And I remember one time she was like, yeah, this dark boy came to see you. He came to see if you was here, but I told him you was sleeping. And that little mixed little boy too. And I had to tell, like, don't say dark boy, like, don't. It's just like, oh my God.
Oh wow. A grandma was raised in the thick of the Jim Crow era. Like, you could tell, like, she raised in that time, and that's and I, the like anti-black people get a lot of heat, and for obvious reasons, but I empathize with them, because I think that there are two types of mindsets when it comes to hatred. There are those who are going to try to beat those who hate them, and then there's people who are of the other mindset of, if you can't beat them, join them, motherfuckers, for the sake of surviving. And so, like, a lot of the people that get classified as like Uncle Toms and Mammies, etc., wow, I will never be able to support the mammification of it all. I will never be able to support the pappification of it all. I do understand the context of anti-blackness and assimilating to whiteness, because Black people have been severely impacted by white supremacy on an emotional level, on an economic level, on a political level, and it is logical to survive. That is logical. That is your primal, animalistic, fundamental self-preservation, first and foremost, as a mammal, as a human being. It's self-preservation. So I understand it, and my heart goes out to the grandmas like yours, because I'm just like, man, it is messed up. It is so anti-black, and I also, like, understand being raised in a system and being taught a certain way, and being taught to look at yourself a certain way. Like,
exactly,
you're taught that you're ugly, and you're taught, you literally are seeing these things. These things are legislated into place. This is like your actual reality. Yeah.
And she grew up hearing, like, oh, you're pretty for a dark girl, or oh, you have beautiful hair, if only you were light skinned. Like, she grew up hearing that. So it's like, I know I can't change her at 71 years old. Like, it is what it is. But what's so interesting is, like, she was determined. Like, after she had my uncle, her third baby that lived, but after she had my uncle, she went and got, like, a hysterectomy. Like, she wanted, and, like, she dated dark skinned men after that, but she literally made sure she never procreated with a dark skinned man. Like, I realized that too. Like, even my mom, after my dad, never dated a light skinned man again. They were all dark after that. But she only procreated with the light
skinned. Wow. Yeah. Definitely strategic. Definitely strategic dating. Wow. She wanted to avoid, introducing certain genes into the genetic pool.
And then I still turned out dark. So it's just like, but sometimes you still don't get.
So do you and her get along? Like, how does she talk about your blackness? Like, how does she?
My mom or my grandma?
Your grandma.
Oh wow. No, me and her didn't really get cool until I was like 12 or 13. I went and lived with her for a year.
Mm-hmm.
And we really like learned a lot about each other. Like her birthday's the day after mine. Like, and we were like, oh, you ain't that bad. Oh yeah, you ain't that bad. But growing up, nah, she ain't want shit to do with me because I look like my father. So I remind her too much of
your dad.
Of the nigga she don't like.
So there has been progress on her end, because at one point she detested you as a result of anti-blackness, but y'all were able to have a relationship at some point.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we cool now. I don't hold it against her. Well, one, because she's not my actual mother, but I don't hold it against her because like she literally didn't know no better. Like she really didn't. But yeah, now we cool now. When I go back up to visit Illinois, I'm gonna go by and see her, and yeah, you know, my
mom together.
Now my mama feels some kind of way. You know, my mom kind of holds those grudges, but I don't at all.
Yeah. Well, you seem to be more empathetic toward her and everybody. So why did your mom? Does she have an issue with grandma because of her politics, because of her anti, or for other reasons? She don't fuck with her.
Well, for other reasons, they have mother-daughter issues. You know, mother-daughter shit that's just complicated and convoluted as hell. Yeah. And I mean, and my mom felt some kind of way because, like, I have my cousin Sky, and my grandma has always accepted Sky from the time Sky came into the world, but didn't give me the same. So my mom,
and I'm assuming that Sky is of the lighter spectrum.
Yeah, me and her about the same complexion. She just has straighter hair than I do.
Okay. Well, when it comes to anti-blackness, something as little as the difference between hair texture can cause one person to be a bit more favored and accepted in an anti-black system than the other texture. So that might have been a determining factor in why Sky was more received initially than you. When I had to work for it, it was kind of given to Sky.
Yeah. And even when I think about it, it's weird because like I look like my father's side of the family, but then I look at Sky, and Sky looks just like my mom to me. Like it's but that's her niece. It's just weird how genetics work,
but that's how genes are. Like they skip around, they do all type of interesting things. They arrange themselves in different type of ways. Like a dark skinned couple can have a totally fair skinned baby. You can have a baby with blue eyes and orange hair. I mean, genetics are very, very, they're kind of like free willed in that way.
Oh, I don't have the eye. Oh, I forgot. I don't have the eyes either. My eyes aren't light brown, so I'm sure that played a part in the colorism. I guess it's more featurism, right?
Featurism. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. Because my eyes are very dark.
Yeah, because a palatable black in an anti-black system is the straighter hair, the lighter eye complexion, the lighter skin complexion, etc. So it largely predicates around featurism.
Yeah. It's some.
Well, you came out pretty good, Storm, to have come out of a Jim Crow inspired family to some extent.
Listen, that was my grandma. To be fair, that was my grandma. Now, when it came to my parents and my looks, they have other issues. They have more like body dysmorphic issues. So, yeah, that's a whole nother issue right there. So.
Oh shit! So you may be you just keep making me produce questions because I just got
questions. Go for it.
But so like, is there like a fear of being overweight? Like when you say body dysmorphia? Okay.
Yeah. So my family would definitely be what you call fat phobic. My mother's naturally thin, but has always been very like conscious about her weight. Like being fat is just not acceptable. Like my mom would even see fat women to be like, you need to get your body in shape. You know, she would say it to herself, not to the person, but just like, damn, girl, damn, that bitch fat as fuck. And she, yeah, damn, the bitch can't stop eating. And I even had to explain to my mom one day, like, the way overweight people typically are like with food, I'm like, that's the same way that you are with alcohol, like how you crave alcohol.
I know you did not gag mama like that. I know you
Oh,
did not gag
oh,
mama.
I gagged both my parents to their face.
You gagged the living shit out of Mama Storm.
This is how we talk. This is how we talk.
That was a good way to put it to her, Jesus Storm.
Because you have to help people understand. Because she'll say shit like, just stop eating, and I'm like, no, that person's brain is telling them they're still hungry. Just like if you don't have a drink, you get an attitude.
Yeah,
it's the same thing. It's so. I'm a gag a bitch. I don't give a fuck. That's just me.
you know, wow, yeah. That's. We might. I'm gonna have to bring you on my show in return so we can expound upon Jim Crow and fat phobia. Okay, that's.
But it's always been very ingrained on me.
That's
like
a lot to grow up around, like that, like all of those various type of ideals around what it, like what's proper, what's pretty, what's appropriate. That's
what looks good, what's appropriate. Be thin, be thin, be thin. Wow. Even from my father, who's big as hell. Be thin, like stay thin. So yeah, it's
interesting because my family is so diverse. We never even. I guess because of how diverse it is, that might, like, I guess on one end, I don't know, like, I guess on one end, diversity in a community can either create the status quo, depending on who's pedestalized in that diversity, or on the other end, it can completely prohibit, like, any gatekeeping, because you got to see so much good humanity in all types of people. Like, I got fat people in my family, churchgoers, like loving people. So we never develop any like ideas around weight per se. And then because I come from like a multi-race family, it's all type of complexions at the Thanksgiving dinner table. So there was never no conversations or gatekeeping around, you know, like black, white, light skin. And so it's like it just never became a thing. So to hear you, like, I'm trying to put myself in your shoes. I'm like, I wonder how I would have turned out had I been like raised around certain ideologies, and what that would have, because I grew up, because I used to be lighter than this. I used to be light bright, and my mama friends always be like, girl, I want to have a son like Davion. He got good hair and light skin and da 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 da. And even though I would hear that growing up, because I didn't live in an overall system that made complexion a thing, whether you were dark skin or just brown skin or light skin, I never even knew really what that meant or I thought anything of my complexion. It was like you could be light or dark, but that's interesting.
I mean, I remember even because I got real dark around 12, 13. And my skin just kind of never went back. And I remember even my mom saying, wow, oh wow, you're darker than what you usually are. Well, maybe, I don't know, maybe you're just gonna be a darker brown, whatever. And it's kind of left it at that. So people get mad at me when they be like, you are not dark skinned, but
yeah, you're not dark. You use the term dark skin to describe your complexion?
I'm on the darker side. I don't consider myself light skinned. I don't see it.
What you have appeared, because I know like earlier on in your career, I think your complexion was lighter.
Okay.
You were on the lighter side. Obviously, looking at you today, you look you like a good brown, and you should look that way because it's 1,560 million fucking degrees in outside, so everybody should be looking very pleasantly tanned
brown. Yes.
But I think maybe you also kind of like overdo it. Like maybe your body dysmorphia is in the complexion because you've been raised in such like these anti-black systems that you think because like you are simply medium brown, that in your eyes, like, bitch, I'm dark, I'm Wesley Snipes, I'm Boris Kudrow in this motherfucker. Like, it's like, no, you're not that. But
it could have also been because I grew up around white people, and white people have always told me I was dark, and it's okay. Like, it's not a bad thing.
To white people, all black people are dark-skinned people to white people, because their contrast is their paleness to our melanin, so it looks extreme from their end, period, because they coming from translucent to looking at all of this various nice color that we all have. But you know, so funny is, in some ways there was an anti-blackness, because I remember hearing things like, don't stay out in the sun too long or you're going to get dark. We didn't know how anti-black those things were until we got older and was like, it's anti-black. But I don't think the people who even said that to us even knew it was anti-black, because it was just the way it was. Like, you didn't want to aspire to look like the people who were being the most oppressed by the system. So it was a way of surviving oppression. It wasn't really about you being uglier or etc. It was just really about like all of the fucking violence, economically, politically, etc., that you were met with. So a lot of black people just did not want to be of dark complexion because of what came with it, and that anti-blackness resurrected as a result. So yeah,
it's
deep. It's a deep thing.
It's a deep thing. Like, when you really think about it, it's like, oh my God. And if I think about, I guess, the featureism I dealt with coming up to, not necessarily with family, but I mean just like socially. It's like, wow. It's just it's interesting how things change, because like now people go and plump up their lips, and I was told my whole life my lips were huge, and I'm just like, oh.
And now the mayonnaise girls are on the table, honey, getting them things filled out Kylie Jenner style. They
just saying, like,
plump, honey.
Like, wow. Okay.
They want the ass, the hips, they want the melanin, they want it all. They want the curly hair, they want the crimp, they want the texture in their hair, they want it all. It truly is beautiful. I mean, it truly is. I mean, the only hair I wear is either curly or like yucky, kinky, straight textures. I feel, straight hair and all of that, it's just blah to me. I need hair with dimension and depth. I need that yucky shit. So
I love that.
Anti-blackness is psychological, and we do have to decolonize our minds from it, because it is very integrated into the way we see the world and the way we see ourselves. So,
and even what people say, like, it's just like the little things I hear people say. I'm just like,
oh, you smart for a black boy. Are you very intelligent?
You smart. Oh my God, you actually read? Ooh, do you know your daddy?
Oh, you don't got a mugshot?
I've heard what coming up around white people really. Ooh, I'm gonna keep it real. Fuck it. Really what I heard is that black people are not attractive. Period. And so I've heard that, and then I've heard, well, you guys are not as attractive as us. And I've even heard, like, you're not too bad for a black guy.
Wow.
You black, but not too
either
black.
All out insults or backhanded compliments that were essentially insults.
But then as I got older, it just became, well, I don't even consider you black anyway. You ain't really black.
And white people felt like they had the right.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
White people believing that they had the right to quantify your blackness.
Oh yeah. I remember having a job, and my supervisor said about this white dude, he's blacker than Storm. I remember that. Like, and that guy was a criminal. He stole, like, he was. And
that's what he meant by blacker, because he's more debased, unintelligent, ignorant. He's blacker than Storm.
And the reason why I tell people these things is, like, we should really understand how other races view us. Like, we can't even begin to address racism if you don't understand how they actually view us. And so
then what are your thoughts about, because I have white supporters as well, and sometimes they reach out to me and they be like, OCTV, I love your content, and then immediately a part of me be like, sometimes I feel bad because I'm just like, boy, I be dragging
They can take it.
the weight off the supremacy, like be dragging the weight off the supremacy. But what do you think about then the sector of whiteness that says we are the good white people, that there's good white virtuous people in the world, and not all of us are Karens and racists, and we love all people, and we da 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 da. Like, are you one of those melanated people who believe in white virtue, considering what you just said? Because you basically just like, you got to know your enemies, and it seemed like you just said white folk are our enemies. So
but you gotta know their you have to know their software and understand it. So are there good white people? Of course. Like, two of my frat brothers, I was in a white frat, but even like two of my frat brothers I'm still cool with are white. But at the end of the day, they're like, you can't be white, especially in this country, and not have some racism in you.
Yeah.
It's everywhere. Yeah. Whether it's overt or or not, it's still in there somewhere. So yeah, you can be a white person of virtue, and that's great, and we can be cool. And I'm still offering interracial dating and all that. But just know the software that you're dealing like is in there somewhere.
When I say that to straight people about homophobia and transphobia, they do not agree.
You can't live in this country and not have some homophobia in you.
And just like you can't be white in an overtly privileged space and not be inherently racist. Now, it don't mean that you can't. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to act it out, but that social construct around whiteness is something that you are marinated in, and that you cannot be liberated from. Like, that will always be a part of your reality.
Yeah,
is
absolutely.
The equity on whiteness. So you have to. So the only way to be free as a white person is to constantly remain aware, self-aware.
Yeah. Profound. Whenever you're dealing with someone that has been oppressed, absolutely. Absolutely.
Got it.
Last thing I'll say about myself before we move on. Also keep in mind too, being around white people and growing up around them. Oh, they hate that, but it is what it is. And being from the Midwest, I'm not from New York, I'm not from Cali, not even from down south. Like, our attitudes and behaviors on what's acceptable versus not is different. So I was taught and cultured in like, you be respectful, you don't get tattoos, you don't get piercings, that's trashy. Like, you don't have kids outside of marriage, that's trashy. Like, white people's thing is like calling things, they're very classist.
Yeah. They created the classism system. They're the authors of it.
So they oh my God, I remember like, because I've worn my hair 50,000 different ways. It just ain't no photographic evidence, thank God. But I've had my hair long and short, and when I say like white people would hate that, like as soon as the fro start growing out, it was like a problem. Like, oh no, that's trashy. The braids era, they did not like that. Just wasn't cool. Like,
it was too black.
It was too black. It was too black. Yeah. I remember. Now I'm talking about adulthood. Now I remember I had these clients who were Venezuelan or Chilean. Anyway, bitch about to lose her kids, but still got the nerve to be racist. But I remember her saying like, "Oh no," because I had like the twisties.
Yeah.
And she, "Oh no, Poppy, like, I thought you were Dominican." And I said, well, you do know Dominicans are black. No, cut that out. Like, I like how you look Dominican without that. And I've heard that I've been asked before, am I Dominican? But like I always tell when I have Mexican or Hispanic clients, they are black. So it's not weird if you think I'm that, because they are black.
Wow.
So her thing was, when my hair was low, I could pass. But growing out, I guess I started looking Haitian. It just threw off. Like, it's
nigger, get away from me. Wow.
And I remember when I got a haircut, not because of that, I just got a haircut. It got hot in Arizona. But when I cut my shoe, oh, thank God, Poppy, like, oh. Wow. I remember going over her
So,
house,
mhm.
and she FaceTimed, I guess, her daughter. Her daughter was like, "Oh, is that my Theo?" And she said, "No. Oh,
Who,
no. Your Theo isn't that dark, but he
who?
does look like him, doesn't he?" I remember that too.
Wow.
So
And
within
I was, but the fact that you continue on in a relationship, I assume that you didn't quite understand the severity, like the
oh,
implications.
she was my client. I couldn't this was social work. It was nothing I could like.
Oh, this was social work.
Yeah,
Wow.
this was so. I'm
You could
having.
have wrote that bitch up. You could have reported that racist hoe.
I could have, except damn, then it's kind of hard to do that when most of your supervisors Hispanic and you in Arizona where they pretty much cater to them, like you in they land. It's a little different. So I'm just like, okay,
You have grown up having your blackness policed like your whole life. You've
from
had your
everybody.
blackness
From everybody.
from sexuality to complexion to attitude, mannerisms, personality type, just police.
Everything.
You like a gay man who's not gay. Like you've had like that's our experience.
I wish I was gay. I wish my life would be so much easier. I wish I was gay.
I don't know about easier, child.
It would.
It ain't all this cracked up to be storm.
It would. I think so. Especially being 5'6". I think if I was gay, I think my dating life would be it just wouldn't be an issue.
Oh, you would be able to whore it down to the ground because I mean, being in the world of men with it. So I mean, you would definitely have a very, very fluid 24-hour long sex life if you were because you don't gotta cut no backflips when it comes to these niggas. Okay.
I'm just saying. But it's just that I'm just not attracted to men in that way. I wish I was. I wish I could be
You never seen one man like because
I can acknowledge when a man looks good. Every man know when a man looks good. They act like they don't. And yes, men do have men crushes. It's called, when they you just a real big fan of The Rock, huh? You just really love Tupac, huh? No, it was a bromance. It was a man crush. It's okay. But
so if you were to take it one step further in your mind and be like to think of those men that you think are attractive and be like, think of your lips against theirs. That's just like does nothing for you.
No. Because that's a man, it's not a woman. Like a woman is
soft. A man that act like a woman, like a very, very, very feminine. I mean, as feminine gonna be type of a guy.
Like a twink?
I'm trying to think, who could I met? Maybe like a prince, like just as feminine as it could get.
That's still a nigga. That's still a dude. Like, I get it, but it's still a dude. Like, no.
So what about a trans woman? Are you a trans attracted at all?
Mm-mm.
You know what's so
nigga be mad about that, but no.
I do not believe y'all when y'all say y'all are not.
I have seen some trans women that are past that I didn't know, and I'm like, oh wow, they're pretty. I just didn't know. I didn't think twice, but once I know, then
see, and that's why I said what I said. Y'all be trans attracted because if you were interacting with a beautiful woman, etc., and you did not know she was trans,
I would just think she's a woman.
You would just be having whatever experience.
I would just be having a conversation
that you're having.
Now, when you can tell, no, I'm not attracted. When you can tell, but if I don't know, I don't know. But I want to know if I'm gonna have sex with you. Then that I do need to know that.
Okay, so I guess we're going to get into that conversation. So you believe that trans women should disclose their gender identity before sex?
Before sex.
Mm-hmm. And why is that? Like, why do you think they should be obligated to do that?
Because number one, especially if you're pre-op, I don't want to have sex with a penis. Like, I'm just not attracted to that. I just want a cis hetero female. Did I say that right?
Well, they're probably gonna neck and buck against cis. The cis women prefer
real woman.
bio woman or real woman.
I want a real woman. Like, even if you do, even if you're post-op, right? And I've seen that girl Hennessy that was like outing all of the football. I mean, she fucked a lot of people in the industry. And even when them dudes was hitting that, I got confused because I was like, wow, I didn't know a fake vagina could cream. I don't know how she managed to do that, but anyway, I didn't know that.
They actually teach pre-op trans women how to squirt, how to actually stimulate an orgasm, because you still have the capacity for an orgasm. You just have to relearn the body
how to do it
in order to Okay.
I didn't know, because I had to do research. I was trying to interview homegirl, and she put them niggas tapes out, and they was hitting that shit, and that shit was screaming like it threw me for a loop. But nonetheless, I still want to know, and that's just my preference. It's nothing against trans people. I got trans people that are friends, like whatever. I'll tell the story. Fuck it, since they tried to say I fucked a tranny anyway.
A transgender.
Sorry. They said that shit. And I got a phone call and had to explain that shit that was not true. I was out at a club and talked to what I thought was a woman.
Well, she was a woman. She wasn't female.
She was a female. Got it. Thank you. Okay. Natasha was her name.
Come on, Natasha. Oh, it be them Tashas, baby.
It be them fucking top. Never again. That's on the list. No Tashas. But no, we were actually walking down and walking back to my car, and she said, I told you she used the word tranny. She said, I told you I'm a tranny, right?
Wow.
I said, no, you didn't. She said, I thought I did. I said, no, you didn't. I said, that's not my thing. No disrespect, but it's not.
Oh, so y'all were going to go home together.
Listen, the party was going to get popping. However, I'm glad she told me before like we did anything. And I walked her back in the party like a gentleman, you know, because it was dark outside. I'm not good. When I say she fully looked like a woman, she fully looked, you would not have even the tone of voice. She didn't have broad shoulder, nothing. I didn't see no Adam's apple, nothing.
Fully passable.
Fully passable. And you know, it's dark outside.
So that's what I'm curious about, because I'm just like, okay, like for me, I am a same sex attracted man. I'm attracted to men. So I've made out with trans men. I've had like, you know, experiences with trans men because I'm attracted to men. So if what I'm looking at is man, I'm attracted to man, and then you tell me you are trans, my brain still can't find a reason to object. So it's interesting to me that cis hetero men, they bodies, like, before you know what you know, your dick hard, your body is experiencing what it's experiencing with this woman, and then as soon as she say I'm trans, it becomes not even more so of a lack of attraction physically, but like something happens intellectually. Like there's
in my head, but also in my head, I'm saying this is still a man. Like in my head, that's what I'm saying. Like it's still a man body.
So is that what you believe, that trans women are ultimately men?
Biologically, that's why we call it trans.
Right.
So biologically, yes, like that's your DNA.
And that's your hang up, is you start to imagine the maleness once you know that a trans woman
it's like it's all in your head. You be like, oh,
that's interesting.
Even if it's post-op, and I've never seen a post-op vagina in person, but I've only seen it like when Hennessy was having But it ain't my thing. Like Malik Yoba, for example, he loves that.
He's trans attracted.
Yeah, and he loves the breasts and then the penis, and I guess it's a real fun time.
King Nor loves it, who you interviewed.
True. But see, he loves to. He said he has an oral fixation, and he loves to give the trans women head.
He does. He loves trans women.
Now, does he stick it in their butt?
Yes.
Okay. I haven't seen that.
The trans girls be riding him until he busts a big nut.
His shit is like this wide.
It is. So shout out to the trans girls.
It sounds painful. Okay.
Yes, he with all of it. Okay. A lot of the male porn stars, Shawn Michaels, he has now started working with trans actresses in his scenes. Also, I know Rob Piper had a scene with a well-known trans woman in the industry as well. A really good one.
Okay. Well, I mean, I guess then my next question is, I wouldn't consider that straight. I think that's more queer. Like, maybe do we need another letter for that when you're trans attracted?
No, I mean trans attracted. I
hate
the label thing.
I know, but we got to make sense of it. Like, if you see King Noir and he's engaged,
I'm gonna say he's heterosexual with an oral fixation because he also has sucked on the strap-on of his wife. I mean,
and we talked about it in an interview. I was like, how did you deep throw the dildo and make yourself ejaculate at the same time? That's
that black boy magic. That's what made me a fan of his.
He was like, I don't know. I was just so turned on and I was into it. And then he was like, well, maybe I just got that magical button in my throat. Because he deep throated the dildo about this fucking long. First off, what?
Right in his
a masculine dude.
King Noir is as like manly as manly can get, and yet is with the shits. It's actually inspiring. It's like
he's a sex god to me.
Yeah, he is. He is like master class sex sensei. He's a sex sensei, like Karate Kid level, and it is amazing what he's been able to do with his brain as it relates to his ideas around sex, and even like reprogramming his thinking, reprogrammed his body. And now he can do things in his new mind that he could not do and would not do in his old mind. And that's so interesting, at the power of our thoughts and the power of the programming. Because you recently also had 4 on here. Like, I don't know how you feel, Storm, but I love this for y'all straight men. Like, I just y'all on y'all Rhythm Nation Janet Jackson era, where y'all are breaking the color line, the sexual lines. Like, y'all are in y'all blur.
They dragging me for it though.
They did.
I'm just talking about like when I go to like the help for review messages and even like DMs. Oh, I guess you're just all about sex now, huh? Are you with that nasty ass? For like, some people with it, some are like, but I think just for me personally, a lot of it is, I think when I first came on, like, they didn't look at me as sexual at all. Yeah. And then now they don't, like, their brains can't compute the
because transition. You remind a lot of people, you are a very relatable face. You got this baby face and this Kool-Aid smile, and you remind people of their brother. Like you give like younger brother energy, and nobody wants to see their brother fucking and talking about sex because it just like feels ancestral. So you feel like a lot of people's sons and brother, and so to introduce the sex is like wow for some people. Some people's brains can't.
You don't think your brother, son, or father have sex?
Right, that part. Like, how the fuck? Like, right, that part. Like, how you think your niece came into the world? How you think your nephew came into the world? How you think? Right.
And even if you think I'm your brother, I'm not. So right. It's like
but that's just how like compartmentalized people get, are just how fixated they just get on like locking you into one thing. And just like how you can't cross the line once you know a woman is trans, they can't cross the line once they have accepted you as family and brother. That mental block feels like a real objective borderline wall. Like it's
because I remember even when Vaughn was around, everybody had this idea that Vaughn was influencing me, not knowing that like the shit I was trying to get Vaughn to do.
That's all I'm like, that's all Storm in actuality.
They didn't understand it at all. And I remember even telling my my good friend on the phone, I was like, everybody thinks I'm an idiot, but I love it. But my therapist didn't approve of that. Like, no, you should show people how intelligent you are. I don't think so. But think I'm an idiot. That's perfectly fine. But they just really thought it was him. And I was like, no, I was planning the sex parties. I was trying. I told that nigga to get on OnlyFans. Like when he was trying to get a car. I was like, you got what? You packing 10.5 inches and you ain't got no car? You need how much? $2,000? You should be. Boy, if you don't get on there, that would
slang some dick.
I was literally trying to whore him out. So I'm like, I know y'all thought he was a bad influence.
Come to find out, Storm was the bad influence.
He's engaged, and what is Storm doing?
Right, whoring. That part.
So people also have to understand sometimes how you present is not like what you do in real life.
Oh, for sure. Like it's funny how people will lock people in. Like it's like y'all, like you got to leave room to realize you don't know this person or people entirely. Like you only see them as a performer. You only see Beyonce when she being Beyonce. You don't see who the mother is, who the wife is, who the whore is. You don't see her outside of the content that she provides as an artist. Like we be shortchanging people like, oh my God, like they changed. No, bitch, you just didn't know. I ain't changed.
You just didn't know.
It just never came up until it came up. It just never, you ain't see it until it was time and place for it to be seen. But ain't nobody changed. Yeah.
Even old girl, Sledgehammer, not Sledgehammer here. What you call her, Budweiser Kate? Even Budweiser.
She was shook, baby. She was shook.
She was shook. What the fuck is this? And what's going on? And oh my God, who is this new person? And I just what? What do you mean?
Because they are used to the Mr. Rogers ass cap wearing, how you doing, Obama ass Storm, honey. They're not used to the Rod Piper Storm.
But you know what, I had to admit, like I'm just multifaceted. Yes, I am highly intelligent. Yes, I've had my IQ tested. Yes, I am very bright. I'm not technically gifted, which is like a really, really, really high IQ. But I'm right on the borderline. Bitch, if you intimidated by it, then fuck you, ho. Yes, I can fucking read an encyclopedia and then read you for filth.
That part.
Yes, I have a master's degree and I can hang out with thugs and prostitutes. Like
that part.
I'm every man. Like I'm humanity. I need that on a t-shirt.
I'm humanity. Look, you a hot boy. Look
but if I'm honest,
educated, got her degree, and she having a hot girl summer. You can.
True.
Best thing I ever heard in my life, was when I was 15, talking to my pastor, and I was telling him, I said, I really want to be saved and Christian and serve God, and I thought that meant like having to go sell pamphlets and shit and be an evangelist. And I was like, I want to do all of that, but I also want to model. I have all these ambitions. He said, why are you trying to put a period where there should be a comma? Ooh. And that changed my entire life forever. Okay. Him saying that one thing literally just it made me accept that I could do and be anything I wanted to be, and I don't have to accept this notion that I have to be either this
or that,
but I can be whatever the fuck I am in all of its splendor. So comma, content creator, spiritual advisor, radical, same gender loving, black, nigga, educated, whatever, commas everywhere. So I actually know now in my adulthood, the actual goal is to be misunderstood. That's actually what I'm striving to be now.
Okay.
I'm not striving to be palatable. I'm not striving to be conceptual. I'm actually living to be understood. That's actually the purpose of our lives. That's really where the diversity comes from. We only have diversity because other people were bold enough
to do that and
understood.
I got it. I got it, because even like I would love to go back into the nonprofit space and have my own group homes one day, but I'm like, but I've been cussing out niggas on YouTube. Can I do that? But why the fuck not? Like it's like I'm all of that. And then I had to say, yes, I'm educated. Yes, I'm gonna go get my PhD. But who am I most comfortable? I'm comfortable around whores. Like, the whole marriage and family thing, like, it's cool, but that don't feel natural to me.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like this is my coming out moment. Like, I'm a whore.
That part. But that's what you came out of the closet as. People been waiting on you to come out of the closet as same gender love. I'm coming out as a motherfucking sex worker hoe. I'm a hoe. That's who I am. I get my life. That's what I do, honey. Like,
that's really what it is, because I'm very comfortable in these.
Welcome to the Storm multiverse.
Yeah, like, and I love to have sex in front of people. I love to watch people. Like, that's me. Oh, that's who I really am.
That's who you really am, and that's also your ministry, and it's so important, for you to tell your story and for you to talk about this freedom, so that other men can know that it's okay to pop their pussy on a handstand in red Mario boots while they getting a rim job from their woman. Like, so many Black men are getting a life off of the Fours and the Storms and the King Norse because so many Black men have not rested in their masculinity. They have been performing. They have been trying to be who their community thought they should be. And so y'all are opening the pathway and blazing a whole new trail for cis hetero men who are unique, and they don't fit into, they're not gay, but they also don't exist in these standardized ways. They have a unique, also intersectional existence. So I fucking love this for y'all. And women, they gonna judge it, they gonna talk shit about it, they gonna do all of that, but at the same time, just remind them, y'all the ones who ask niggas to be real. Y'all the ones who asked them. Y'all the ones who asked them to keep it 100. Y'all the ones who reminded them, it's 2023, what you lying about? So just remember, when you want to pop that shit to me and call me all type of F words and nasty and obsessed with sex, bitch, you the same motherfucker who asked me to keep it 100 and to be myself. And that's exactly what you're getting. And I love it for Black men. I love it. I fucking love it. Baby, let it all out. Like, march down the yellow brick road. Let these folk because it's the not having shame for me that's the most empowering to see. Like, to see men not operating in shame and guilt. To see men not policing themselves and not putting the superficial community before themselves. This is really an act of self-love. Black men are also on a self-love journey, and that's personifying itself through honesty. Black men are being really honest and are being themselves, and a lot of Black women are not as ready for that as they thought. They thought they still knew what to expect when they thought about Black men being themselves. They had no idea, baby.
Or even me. Because what's weird is, like, they, if I told them, oh, I'm getting married and I'm doing this and I'm living the straight lace life, they would clap it out. Oh. But when I tell them, well, since you're gonna talk about my sexuality, but let me tell you what I did last week.
Right. Let's talk about the sex I had last week.
Let's talk about
that part. Yeah. Exactly. Give it to their motherfucking ass. Even if you wake up tomorrow and you got 97 subscribers, keep giving it to them.
Yeah, you're right.
But I love it for y'all. I love it. I think it'll be dope to see you, Four, and King, nor like have a roundtable discussion around a Black men's mental health and the significance of Black men being their authentic selves and how much that impacts the quality of life, and how it's important for Black men to be able to accept who they in fact actually are, whatever that looks like for each Black man, because it's powerful. Like what y'all are doing is powerful. It's coming in the form of sex, but the messaging is still just as much there.
It's just accepting yourself.
Yeah, like this is just the expression of that freedom. This is just the expression of that authenticity. But
I still have a right to change. In 10 years, if I say, okay, I'm over this now and I'm ready to settle, that's my choice. But
your choice.
But I just don't want to marry a girl now, waste her time, waste her life, knowing
that you're not. Really, it's not where you're at. Yeah.
I'm not.
That's not who you are right now. Yeah,
I'm not.
Yeah, and that's fine. That's fine. Yeah. And Black women know what that feel like. They get pressured all the time to be married at a certain age, to start a family by a certain age, and that ain't where they at. They in a career bag. They get into the bag. They got other shit they trying to fucking do. They and they wrestle with that shit too. So I'm sure this is inspiring to a lot of the Black women that follow you as well. Like you, wherever you are is okay.
Yeah,
is okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. So let's hit this last topic before I let you go. We've been arguing. You know me, you could talk for hours.
We can, and we did. It's 2 hours on the
2 hours. Before we head out, Keke Palmer, you know, she's been out as a pansexual.
Yeah.
But people have always been really interested in who she's screwing, or saying she really want a woman, she don't want a man. And then we got Dwight Howard, who he won't address what he is. He said it's none of your business. You're not in my bedroom, so don't worry about it. Yeah. And so what I'm asking you is, do you think people should have to out themselves? Do they owe that to the general public or no?
I don't think they owe it to the public. I think they owe it to themselves. And I think as long as it's something that you can accept from you, I'm not really sure that you necessarily owe that to the public. But what I will say is that true freedom also looks like you not running from it either.
Gotcha.
So you might not volunteer it. That's one thing. But somebody who has come full circle in their authenticity, they ain't gonna run from it either. So no, I don't think anybody owes anybody that about their identity. I think it's an empowering thing to be able to say it. And I was listening to something last night where people was just like, I think, just, I don't know, gay people, and just, I think, what you do in your bedroom should just stay in your bedroom. And I'm just like, yeah, that's a very fragmented way to look at queer people who don't have a bedroom. We actually have a love language. It's not about just what we do in the bedroom. It's about living in a society where we can celebrate our love life, which also encompasses the freaky, nasty, disgusting shit we also do in the bedroom. But it's unavoidable to live in the closet in a society where you're going to ask me who I'm dating, and you're going to ask me what's going on in my personal life, and we're going to sit around in lunch break rooms, and you're going to have your spouse here, and we're going to have couples retreats. And it's like, there's no way to get around the conversation of what is your personal life. And so on one end, we are in a society where we're like, why gay people and folk can't keep this shit to themselves? At the same time, to your point, we're like berating people to come out of the goddamn closet and to put what's in private before the light. And then to add insult to injury, and compounding that is the fact that heterosexual people participate in telling us their damn business every day through dating shows, through Chance at Love, Flavor Flav, The Bachelor, The Bachelorette. When you get married, bitch, you and your bitch don't get married down there by yourself. You need to invite half the family, all your friends. Everybody need to witness your private life. So how is it that we can have the predominant society participating in the luxury of being able to share their love and share their love experience, and then ask queer people to be okay with living in secrecy and privacy, and then at the same time have an issue with secrecy and have an issue with privacy. We do have to make up our minds at this point, and queer people want to be able to participate in that. I want to be able to sit around with my family who's talking about their children and talking about their spouse and the vacation they just took last week, and also talk about what me and my man, we went to go see the pyramids 2 weeks ago, and me and my man are also considering in vitro or having children, or like, we just want the normalcy and to just be able to participate in community. It's not about pushing an agenda. It's not about trying to convince people. It's just about being a human being, living amongst human beings, and just wanting to share and be open and have that reciprocation there. And that be that. It's literally not about anything else but just being human and living amongst community and wanting to participate in community. So I'm happy everybody's talking. I understand what Dwight is saying, but at the same time, I feel like, yeah, like you he there, but he ain't at the top tier of self-acceptance. Because when you have self-accepted, Storm, you could die on the cross for your shit. You ready to die for your shit. That's really when you have come to, because self-love happens incrementally, and there's levels to self-love. The top tier self-love is when I can say it and not give a fuck if you're going to persecute me for it. It's when I can be it and stand in the face of the firing squad. That's when you're at the highest level of self-acceptance. So I think Dwight is at a certain tier of self-acceptance,
but not at the top.
Yeah, but his inability to actually articulate it and his willingness to run from it when it shows up lets me know that he's not at the highest level of self-love. But he is drinking from a cup of I don't give a fuck. But it ain't the biggest cup. It ain't the biggest gallon of I don't give a fuck to drink. But I think the more we obviously have these conversations and we push the envelope and we welcome people to stand in their truth, and we recognize that we should never oppress people in a way that we ourselves want to be free in. That we should always extend people the same freedoms that we enjoy, that we value, that we love, and realize that every human, regardless of our personal opinions, deserves the right to also exist in this dignified communal way. So I just hope that we can continue to get there. And I guess my last question to you would be, do you feel like this society is coming along when it comes to open-mindedness, or do you feel like we're basically the same closed-minded, bigoted, hateful motherfuckers that we've always been? Or do you feel like
I think progress is being made? No, I think progress is definitely being made. I think we're just in the middle of for lack of a better term, a transition. I think that men are having to relearn how to interact with women as equals.
Yeah.
I think that we also are trying to learn how to live and work with trans people, queer people, bi people, whatever, because it's always been here. Mm-hmm. We've just always tried to act like we didn't see the shit, but it's always been there. When people say, "Oh, it's so many gay people now," there could be some truth to that. But really what it is just more people are living out loud. They couldn't do that back in the day. Now they can without you hanging them and that being acceptable. So
I love what you said the other night. You was really full circle. You were saying how, like, as it relates to more queer people in the world, you was like, look, it's a lot of things. It's the fact that people are just radical and open. So more people obviously going to exist out loud. There also could be shit in the food. It also could be certain shit that's also manufacturing this, etc. And I like that you said that, and it made me think about, like, why do I resist talking, like making that a part of my talking points as well? Because I know that there are certain hormones and shit in the air and the food and the grits and the cheese, etc., that those things have their place. And then I realized the reason I don't like, even especially when I'm in front of when I'm in front of the dominant society, is because they're going to take only that as an antidote.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So I don't go into those other areas because I'm just like, two things can be true at the same time. There could be manufactured reality that's also happening simultaneously alongside genuine organic reality. And in this age, yeah, both of those things are coexisting together, the manufactured and, the genuine expression and manifestation of queer people in the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I guess lastly, I gotta say, do you feel that trans women are trying to take the place of biological women?
Less than 1% of the population could never replace the majority. There's literally more females on the planet than there are even males. So to even this flawed fear mongering concept of less than 1% of the population is going to actually replace the majority is really outlandish. I do not believe trans women are replacing anyone. Men still largely won't even marry trans women. So
Mm.
where is this trans women are replacing us attitude? Do you have to share the space with women who are here? You absolutely do.
And I
They are
think
here.
that's the issue.
Yeah.
They feel like they shouldn't have
And
to.
that's what the context of the fight is.
Okay.
Females feel claustrophobic in a patriarchal system and having to share share resources. Black women, Black females already feel there's a shortage on all these things because if we're not losing the niggas to the streets, we're not losing the niggas to the criminal justice system. We're losing them to drugs. We're losing them. We already then the dating pool is shrunk even more as it relates to you got same gender loving men, you got men who love men. Now we got trans women who got to come into the algorithm, and they too gotta we got to share content with them too. It's the perception of lack, and I just want biological Black women to be honest about this feeling of feeling shrunk and already being unhappy with Black men and already divesting and already feeling like there's not enough room and there's not enough affirmation and there's not enough resource, there's not enough love, there's not enough for them. And that's what they're fighting trans women
About.
with and about is this perception and feeling that may be rooted in a lot of actuality. But the thing is, it's not trans women who shrunk that space for you. You have to literally combat the patriarchal influence and tactics that have set reality up for Black American females in the system. That's going to be the only way for this sense of suffocation to finally be eradicated. And you're not going to eradicate that by keeping trans women out of the space and keeping trans women out of the community and keeping trans women out of the conversation. That's not your actual enemy. The enemy, we all have the same enemy, and it's white capitalistic patriarchy. And so while Black men and Black women fight amongst each other, not knowing that they have the same shared enemy, while Black women and Black trans women fight amongst each other, not knowing they got the same enemy, while gay men and straight men fight amongst each other, not knowing they got the same enemy, we just are now doing the work of the system, which is we are each other's epidemic. We are each other's poison, and that's exactly what the system wanted. It wanted the in-house fighting so that it could reap the benefits of the annihilation without having to be blamed for the extinction of Black folk.
I think that's the perfect place to leave off. Conscious. Tell them where they can find you.
You guys obviously can find me right here. My channel name is Conscious TV, the motherfucking king, over on Instagram and over on YouTube. And so I really want to thank you for always doing the work. You are literally one of the most brilliant influencers and a total enigma to the T sector because you actually have the versatility to do these type of things and to have these type of conversations. And you've always extended your platform. You've always supported smaller content creators as well. I think you are so humbled, and I just want to thank you for being you and for being in this space and for providing this dialogue. It's been amazing.
Absolutely.
And you gotta, and bitch, you owe me some interviews and some,
yes, I do.
And some sit downs. So
yes, I do.
Come over to the Conscious TV kingdom.
Yeah. I sure do, and I'll let you and your people drill me because I know they can't wait to drill me.
Literally and physically.
Literally and figuratively.
Literally.
But yeah, no, we always been cool people, and yeah, like I just like to have real conversations. Like the mess is the mess, and that pays the bills. But
yeah,
bitch, this was interesting.
It is, and it's good, and it's relevant. It's interesting. Yeah. It's relevant. It's something that's happening really amongst the people, and so it's important. It's all of that, and I think what people should know too is like people don't know a lot about our dynamics, but we have been able to keep it real with each other as well. Like Storm has let me say some real shit to his ass, like. And Storm has been able to say some real shit to me as well. Like, and I hope that can continue, because we don't see a lot of relationships between content creators out here on these streets. It always goes kaboom. So I'm even more appreciative about what I have been able to manifest out here. And yeah, like people should know, like he keeps it real. Like he says how he feels. He tell me what he think, how he feel, etc. Like those are principles of the friendship, and I can fuck with that. I don't need somebody kissing my ass. I want somebody who can say, I feel like this. I feel disrespected. I feel blah 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 blah. And we can actually engage it. We can deal with it
and move on.
Better day, yeah, and that it doesn't have to be something that drives a wedge. So. Storm Chasers, y'all got a real ass nigga. Okay, this is a real ass nigga.
And and I'll say this too. It's much easier to be like that when you know, like, okay, this person ain't recording me. Okay, this person ain't trying to just keep this in the vault to use 10 years from now. Like
that part.
It's just like, oh my God. So this person's not trying to end my career. Like
that part. But thank you for telling them that I'm not no set up ass bitch and that I'm a genuine asshole.
You not. You holding so much shit, boy. You could have. But you know what I realized? I don't have to destroy anybody. The self-destructive people, they gonna handle that themselves.
That part. And you know what else too is, because baby, sometimes I wish I could fight with these folks the way that they fight with us, but I can't because I got too much to lose. And I realized that I prefer to be somebody who's trusted than not. So if I get out here and I'm the person that is going to drop recordings and I'm going to do all of that, I'm really selling myself short in the end, because people now know what time it is with me, and then they will withhold themselves in ways that I would want them to be comfortable with me in. So I'm very mindful of that, and yeah, I try to be as integral as possible, and so do you. So that's why this is able to happen. So I want you to continue to be successful, and this was a joy. Thank you for having me. Oh, and question. So if it gets really rambunctious, and I got a feeling it may get rambunctious in that chat, we should definitely do an after show at some point. If the comments and the questions calls for a response of some sort, you should definitely do that.
It's a Storm Show. It's a Storm Show.